Hey guys, Heretic U here with another video. Today I'm just going to talk about the mess, just the absolute state of horror that we are in 2021. Um, where where do I start? Well, let's start by understanding how we get from a company, say Coca-Cola, for example, um, teaching their employees how to be less white. Let's start there, okay? Um, to be less white is to be less oppressive, to be less arrogant, to be less trusting, to be less defensive, to be less arrogant, to be more humble, to listen and believe, um, and to break apathy with white solidarity. Okay, so, you know, last video I talked about how Gina Carano was fired for pointing out the very obvious thing that when you start targeting a group of people and dehumanizing them, you'll get to basically a point of systematic evil. And I think that's pretty much where we're at now. I don't know how bad it's going to get, but we have examples that are both comical and scary at the same time. I mean, this came from mandatory training, excuse me, from Coca-Cola. And basically it's teaching people that because of the color of their skin, they are oppressive, arrogant, uh, ignorant, defensive, and basically evil people. And the absolute grift of this is that the person that is instructing you is a white person that is getting paid a lot of money to tell you that you are a fuckface and are evil based on nothing that you did, just solely based on the color of your skin. How did this happen? If you really think about it, it's kind of crazy that it went to like the HR department. Somebody reviewed this and somebody okayed this for their people and made it mandatory for them to watch it. And to get to that point where you're okay with the message of, hey, a group of people are evil because of their skin color is pretty scary to me. And if we look at everything that's happening uh, from, the digital book burning of like, yeah, Dr. Seuss is now bad. There's warnings on the Muppet Show. I don't know who is actually offended by this, but it's kind of a mix of, let's say, uh, the online Twitter sphere and the Facebook and all that is now spilling into real life, where we try to do things and say things for, you know, for likes, right? Because I don't honestly think that, I mean, do we honestly believe that someone is looking at a Dr. Seuss book and they are getting upset by what they see? Or they're watching an episode of the Muppets? Or, if the wrong person wins the Super Bowl, it's evidence of racism. All of this, like, insanity actually has a weird sort of logic to it. It's something I noticed when I was going to college early on. I kind of saw this before it, kind of morphed into this monster that it is today. And it's kind of the reason why I created Civil Unrest. It was something I created in college a long time ago, because I thought, well, if you took these ideas to their logical conclusion, you're going to get this extreme tribalistic outcome where groups are going to be battling other groups. And that's kind of the point of civil unrest. And it's happening IRL, and it's pretty freaking. It's both funny and scary at the same time. And I'm trying to think of. I know that there's other people like me out there. Maybe you're not listening to this because, let's be honest, I'm not the best guy at delivering this kind of stuff. This isn't usually my spiel, right? I'm not very entertaining at this. I'm not the most educated person when it comes to how this new PC / woke religion kind of grew and got its roots into just, you see it now in corporations, in their HR department, in their hiring practices. You see it in law, right? We're now seeing the Navy having to take, racial sensitivity classes, and we see this bleeding into all of our institutions. And I think I'm like just an average dude who looks at this and says, this is crazy, but nobody wants to speak up. Nobody wants to say anything because you don't want to be labeled as the Nazi in the room. You don't want to be the infidel or the insurrectionist or the conspiracy theorist, because if you try to speak up about this stuff, I mean, as we've seen with good old Gina Carano, you'll get fired. For saying very obvious truths now, and it scares the living piss out of me that if somebody says something as benign, and sorry, I'm in a parking lot right now, and so there's cars behind me and shit. But if somebody were to just say simple common sense truths, I don't know, dudes are different than women, right? You'd get tossed from Twitter. You're actually in violation of their rules. And this stuff is not, it's making us question actual reality, and it comes from, at least from what I understand, it has its roots in deconstructionism and postmodernism, and it's all kind of morphed into what people normally call as cultural Marxism, which is kind of taking ideas of traditional Marxism and merging it with a bunch of other things, sprinkle in some race, sprinkle in some intersectionality, and you've got this thing where we're now looking at each other, dividing each other into groups of privilege. And if your skin color puts you in a group of privilege, you automatically have that privilege, whether that is the truth or not. And that's a scary thing. So truth is no longer the deciding factor here, right? Objective reality doesn't come into play. Your intent, whether you're a good person or not, or try to be a good person or not, doesn't matter here. It is your group affiliation. That is some scary shit. And I joke about it, I laugh about it a lot, but it's getting to a scary point. I keep wondering, when are we going to hit bottom? When are people going to push back on all of this woke bullshit? And I don't know. I'm just a guy. I just wanted to make videos on tabletop wargaming, but every facet of our life now has been invaded by this ideology of if you are not with these people, if you don't stand up and say the right words and bend the knee and say the right words, you're out. And once you're out, you're not just a person that they don't want to talk to. You're like an enemy of the state. You're an infidel. To put it in Warhammer terms, you're a heretic. Okay, whose family anyone associated with you should be virus bombed. It's pretty fucked up, but that's where we're at. And um, I'm looking at all this crap going on, and it's got to stop, right? And like I said at the beginning of this, I'm not the best guy to do this kind of crap, but I think it's important that people like me, whether it's, comes natural to you or not, to say something about it. I think if we all just kind of said no to this crap, voiced our opinions, it really can't go any further, right? It's the fact that we're scared. We're scared of losing our jobs. We're scared of being ostracized online, or losing our accounts, or not being able to do videos anymore, or whatever. Not unable to, our ability to engage in this electronic digital town square that we've created, has gotten a lot of people that are actually not for this shit just kind of stayed silent. And so maybe you don't want to hear this from me, but if you agree with me, I think you should also, find some way. I just want to encourage everyone who is just looking at this shit and saying, like, this is obvious bullshit. Like, no one in their right mind is offended by, an episode of the Muppets. No rational and if you are, I think you need to seek psychiatric help. All right, Kermit, he's many things, but I don't think he's a Nazi. That is just me. Maybe I'm a little crazy. Call me crazy, but I don't think like Jim Henson put any dog whistles in the Muppet Show. Dr. Seuss. I don't know much about the guy actually, but I mean, I don't think, looking at a drawing he did of a China, someone from China, is like, oh, now we're it's going to convince children to hate Chinese people. It's like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing this? Why? It's funny. My wife watches like normie shit on TV, and they started talking about this stuff, and I thought, hey, okay, so they're talking about it, but they just sort of nodded their heads in agreement. Like people with, just normal everyday people are just like, well, I guess Dr. Seuss, he was probably racist, and it's good that we burn things. Okay, so let's just recap where we are as a society. Okay, we're now at the point where, we're judging people by skin color, and then grouping them by skin color, and then treating the groups differently. And books that we don't like, that disagree with a certain way of thinking, must be burned and purged from the internet. And people that think differently are also to be, ousted from public society. Maybe they don't deserve to work. They don't deserve to have a voice or anything. How can we look at this? How can anyone look at that and say that's a good thing? Well, I hope if you're listening to this, it's making some sense to you. That I know I'm like, again, I'm bad at explaining this kind of crap, but hopefully you were just a guy that just wanted to play board games, and then all of a sudden notice, like, the board game companies, the miniature game companies, they've all kind of had to act differently now, and kowtow to the new dominant religion. And maybe you're like, you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but if I say something, is it worth it? I'm telling you that since I started doing these videos, getting this shit off my chest, I feel better. I feel good, and I know a lot of people disagree with this stuff, but I'm going to keep saying this stuff. So, anyways, that's all I got for today. If you liked the video, give me a quick little thumbs up and a like or whatever, and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.